What's up? In this video, I want to talk about a conclusion I've come to, and that is that if you want to remain mentally sharp and competitive in the direction the world is going, you have to force yourself to do hard things. The reason why I say you have to force yourself is that the way the world is working and the way the incentive structures are aligned, it's very easy to avoid tedious and difficult activities through AI. Either you are directly incentivized to do so if your work is expecting you to use AI to make your job easier, or you're indirectly incentivized to do so if you're in academia and the professors might say don't use AI, but if it's right there and you can accomplish your assignment in 5 minutes with it versus 5 hours, that's a very tantalizing prospect. But what you risk losing when you use AI for everything and when you outsource all of your thinking to external commodities is that you lose the ability to reason and solve problems on your own. And that's going to be very dangerous. That's just sad in general, right? If you lose your reasoning faculties and your ability to solve problems, that's kind of sad in and of itself. Moreover, though, it's a genuine problem if you are in a technical discipline, like let's say software engineering, machine learning, data science, anything like that, where a large part of the reason why you're a valuable candidate, a valuable employee, is that you have very good problem-solving skills specific to your domain. If you're using AI to implement and solve every problem for you, those problem-solving skills that you have previously developed are going to atrophy. It's just like working out, right? If you don't train a muscle group at all, the muscle is going to degenerate. It's going to get weaker, it's going to shrink. And the only way that you can maintain that muscle or make it stronger is through exercising it. And I think that's exactly how you have to do it for any sort of mental thing. You could solve problems all the time. It's like, think about when you were taking calculus, right? If you've already taken calculus. Think about what it was like when you were first learning how to do integrals and you had to just try a bunch of different problems, you had to do a bunch of different practice, and then eventually you got really good at it. But then what happens is 2 or 3 years down the line, you haven't had to do an integral by hand in a long time. And so you lost the ability to kind of do them automatically. Maybe you can reteach yourself, and when you reteach yourself, it'll probably be easier the second time around because you already have some residual synaptic connections, but you still have lost the ability because you didn't practice it, you didn't actively apply it, and therefore your brain forgot it. It's the same thing with general problem solving and abstract reasoning. If you're not doing that on a consistent basis, A, your abilities are going to degrade, and 2, your general familiarity with all the motions you go through when you're solving a problem is going to become less potent, and therefore going to be worse at solving problems and reasoning through stuff like that. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that the way things are going, there are no incentives for you to maintain your problem-solving and reasoning abilities. Not in academia and not in industry, especially not in industry. And so what do you do though? Because you still need to know how to solve problems. You still need to be good at doing this, even though the instances when you would be able to practice applying it in school and in industry are no longer, how do I want to phrase this? It is no longer economical to spend your time doing things the hard way anymore because of AI, but you still need to do it because if you don't remember how to solve problems, if you don't exercise that muscle, it's going to get weaker and weaker until the point that you're sort of crippled without AI. And at that point, why would anybody hire you? If all you are is just a liaison between Claude and the production code base, then there's no point in hiring you. Let's take some senior engineer who's more competent, give them a bunch of API credits, and they can have the agents do the job that you'd be doing anyway. Because if all you're doing is just being sort of like a middleman between Claude and GitHub, then really a senior engineer can do that with agents if they're assiduous with how they've set up their environment. But what I want to propose and what I'm going to try to do in my personal life and my personal experience is I'm going to try to go out of my way to actively train problem-solving skills, strengthen those mental muscles, and remain sharp on this front, because I realize so many people around me are getting worse at this, not really through any fault of their own, but it's still a problem. And I recognize that if I lose these problem-solving abilities that I've worked so hard to cultivate, it'll really be a tragedy in and of itself, but furthermore, it's going to be a real problem for when I go and try to get a job or do whatever, and that's an expected skill that you need to have and you need to sharpen and you need to maintain. So The plan that I have to try to address this is I'm going to spend time that is not related to work and not related to school, even if it's just 30 minutes or an hour a day. Pick a problem and just work at it. No outside resources. Just try to reason through it and just go back through the motions of struggling and trying different things and just problem solving like you used to back before there was a button you could press to get the answer immediately. And you might think that this is kind of like uh, pointless, right? It's like you see these people that are doing extreme athletics and they're doing all sorts of crazy shit and they seem like they're suffering, and people are always like, why are they doing this to themselves? Like, why would you put yourself through that? But for them, they're doing that because whatever athletic endeavor they're suffering through, they're doing that so that they can become stronger. They're doing that so that they can achieve something that other people haven't achieved. I think you have to think about it the same way with maintaining and expanding your problem solving skills. You have to think about it in that, it might not be glamorous, it might not be fun, but you need to keep this skill alive. Because if you don't keep it alive, you're pretty much cooked. Like you're just a couple years away from some agent taking your job. And if you don't want to do that, you probably need to start either teaching or reteaching yourself how to solve problems. So I guess in my instance, I should say, how do I plan to tackle this? Well, I want to basically look at two routes. I want to look at programming stuff and math stuff. And I want to say, okay, I want to spend X amount of time practicing programming, just like implementing stuff from scratch, no assistance, doing leak codes or whatever, solving algorithm-based problems. And on the math side, I want to go back to solving math problems by hand. It becomes very easy when you have access to these advanced computer algebra systems to delegate all the manual calculation to that computer system. But what I found is that I've gotten worse and worse and worse at manual calculations because it's been so long since I've been forced to do them. And, that's not okay. In my job or whatever I'm going to do, the job is not going to be like, hey, dude, here's a times table sheet. You got to fill this out in like 30 seconds. It's not going to be that, but being confident in your ability to do these rote calculations, being confident in your ability to solve these problems by hand, that's going to make you a lot better at reasoning through some of the more abstract parts of whatever problems you are solving at your job. If you have to do some estimates or some calculations, you'll have a much easier time doing it because you're used to doing it, and it's not going to be the sort of thing where it's like, oh, dude, I haven't done math on paper in like 3 years, dude. I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna ask AI. Like, that's not the situation you want to be in. You don't want to be the sort of guy where like you're in a meeting and you're talking with some other engineer and you're trying to plan out how you're going to implement something, and you have to do some basic math, and then you have to either whip out the calculator or you start talking to AI. Like, that other guy's going to think you're an idiot. And even if that doesn't impact your job at all, like, you don't want that to happen, dude. Like, come on, you're better than that. So that's kind of what I'm going to aim to do. I haven't like implemented any sort of rigorous routine of like, I'm going to do these problems today, or I'm going to do like this class of problems, or I'm going to study for like X amount of time per day. Like, I haven't really thought about it that assiduously, but generally speaking, my goal is to try to train the mental muscles of problem solving so that they don't atrophy and that they don't get worse, they don't get weaker. And in whatever way I do that, whether it's with just like math problems on pen and paper or leak code problems or whatever, I'm just going to make sure that I'm doing it consistently, just like you have to be consistent in the gym. I want to make sure that I'm training my mental problem solving abilities consistently so that if my job consists of talking to Claude for 8 hours a day, I don't go crazy, and I also don't lose all the, important mental skills and reasoning faculties that actually made me a valuable person to hire in the first place. So I don't know, could you guys tell me, like, do you feel the same way? Do you feel like using AI constantly has made you dumber? Are you kind of concerned as well that your problem solving abilities are getting worse? Like, have you noticed they're getting worse, or you're concerned that they might be getting worse? Because I know for me, I certainly am a little concerned about that. And it's not something where it's like drastic, where all of a sudden I can't solve anything, but it's like, I'll look at some problems that I'll come across and I'll be like, I could have solved this a year ago pretty easily, and now I'm really struggling with it. And it's not like I got dumber necessarily, it's more so I got used to the instant gratification, just being able to look up the answer. And so as a result, I kind of forgot what it was like to just stare at something and be like, huh, okay, I gotta figure this out. I can't go just search up the answer. So yeah, this video has been sort of rambling. Also, if you can tell, I'm in a different backdrop. That's because I moved back across the country, and so I'm back home a little bit for now before I go back to school for my master's program in a couple of days. But yeah, I think I've covered really everything I want to talk about in this video. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this. Do you agree? Do you think what I'm suggesting is a good idea of just introducing like a sort of mental training regimen to keep your problem-solving skills sharp? Let me know. On that note, I've made a Discord for anybody in this community who likes math machine learning. Link for that is going to be in the description. Also, I have a math tutoring business. If you need help in high school math, ACT, SAT prep, or university level math, let's work with me. Go to my website and get a free consultation. Go to www.kuehrtutoring.com. That's Kuehr tutoring.com. Get a free consultation with me. We can figure out what you need, where you're at, and how I can help you out, and we can get started. But other than that, guys, yeah, I just want to get a video out because it's been a couple days, really hectic with traveling. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Other than that, though, have a good one.